What if Ramadan was not about food at all? What if it's a secret code hidden in its name? Ra, light breaking through darkness. Ma, water flowing in silence. Dan, the burning pull toward divine union. 3 sounds, 1 encrypted path, a spiritual formula older than time itself. Forget the calendar. This is the gateway inside you. Welcome to Light Beneath the Words, where sacred texts reveal what others never told you.
Ramadan is not merely deprivation. It is a fire that burns away what we believe ourselves to be, to reveal what we truly are. But beware, seeing beyond the veil requires courage, for true fasting touches more than the body. It consumes the ego. It does not merely deprive, it transmutes. So, are you ready to walk through the fire and emerge transformed into ashes? I am Mansur, your guide on this journey, and today we have someone truly extraordinary with us, the one they call the mystagogue, Madam Firdara.
You thought Ramadan was just about fasting? Now you know. It's a divine map written in your soul. If this lit something inside you, don't keep it for yourself. Hit subscribe, share it with those ready to see beyond the surface, and unlock with us the mystic keys of Islam. Here, we don't just read words, we unveil the fire beneath them. You believe you know Ramadan? Think again. Beyond appearances, a world of hidden meanings and profound truths awaits you. Let us dive together into the exploration of this sacred mystery.
Mrs. Firdara, I have observed Ramadan since childhood. I have followed the rituals, recited the prayers, felt the hunger, but lately I sense there is something more. Something beneath the surface that I cannot grasp.
Mansur, what does this name itself conceal if not a call to profound reflection? And the word Ramadan, have you ever explored it beyond its simple calendar designation? Might it not rather be a celestial map, a path traced to the confines of the soul? Imagine it not as a banal temporal label, but as a spiritual odyssey, an inner journey unveiling the mysteries of our being.
Could it be just a name? Or does it conceal within its sounds an unsuspected mystery, an invitation to plumb the depths of existence?
Listen carefully to its syllables, Ra-ma-dan. Each contains a universe of meaning. Ra, this first vibration, evokes solar radiance in ancient traditions. Ra is the sun god, the illuminating principle, the primary emanation of divine light that penetrates the veil of our tangible reality. Imagine this celestial flame, pure consciousness, gracefully descending into our world of forms and illusions.
Like this fire, but what does it truly consume within us?
The forge of existence, where fire sculpts the soul, polishing it to perfection. At the center, we encounter Ma, pivot syllables, suspended bridge between 2 worlds. In the ocean of mystical traditions, Ma embodies the primordial water, this universal matrix of all creation. It is the state of perfect receptivity, the empty chalice ready to receive the divine essence. This spiritual water represents the sacred malleability of the soul that surrenders, the spotless mirror, capable of reflecting celestial splendor without the slightest alteration.
Like water, embracing the contours of each vessel, the spirit bends to circumstances, fluid and untamable.
And then Dan, the final syllable, suggests proximity, intimacy with the divine. It is the culmination of the spiritual journey, this long-sought fusion with the divine presence.
So Ramadan is...
Thus, Ramadan with Ma at its heart reminds us that to progress toward divine proximity, we must adopt a state of openness and purification, just as water cleanses and nourishes. The seeker must become fluid, receptive, and reflective to pass through the transformative fire of Ra and find comfort in the proximity of Dan. Thus, the very name of Ramadan speaks of the alchemy of transformation, the soul's journey from foam to gold.
I am deeply touched, Madam Firdara. This wisdom which resided there, within sight, It is an echo of the inspired intelligence of the Prophet, peace be upon him.
Most do not see it. They see the outer form but miss the inner meaning. The hunger you feel during this month, are you certain it is merely the emptiness of your stomach?
What else could it be, Firdara?
When a flame burns, it creates an empty space around itself. This void is not an absence, but a potential. The hunger of Ramadan is similar. It creates a void within you, but this void is not empty. It is full of possibilities.
This fire does not burn randomly. It ignites at a precise moment, inscribed in the very fabric of time, a rhythm engraved in the heavens, a secret encoded in the stars. Nothing in the divine order is left to chance. So, why must Ramadan fall precisely in the 9th month of the lunar cycle? What truth hides behind this celestial alignment?
Ramadan, placed in the 9th month, reveals a cosmic secret hidden in plain sight. In Sufi mysticism, the number 9 represents the final veil before complete divine revelation. It is no coincidence that the Quran itself was revealed during this month. 9 is the number of revelation par excellence. The Arabic letters of Ramadan, then, in their esoteric numerical value, abjad, total 1091, which reduces to 11, then to 2. This 2 symbolizes the duality we must transcend during this sacred month. The Ramadan fast extends precisely from the point where the eye can distinguish a white thread from a black thread until the moment this distinction disappears.
But how does this cycle of 9 inscribe itself in our own body, in our human microcosm?
The great Sufi masters like Ibn Arabi taught that the 9 gates of the human body correspond to the 9 months preceding Ramadan, each needing to be purified before accessing the 10th gate, that of the heart, which only fully opens during this sacred month. What we experience during Ramadan is not simply a ritual, but a microcosmic recreation of the divine order itself. Our ancestors knew that in ancient cosmology, the 9 celestial spheres represented the soul's journey. Similarly, Ramadan represents this annual opportunity to realign our being with the primordial rhythm of creation, a complete journey from the initial divine spark to the final return to our original source.
And what of the moon that marks the beginning and end of Ramadan?
The moon represents the celestial mirror reflecting divine light. Its cycle of appearance, growth, fullness, then waning is a living metaphor for the spiritual journey during Ramadan. The waxing crescent represents the initial Ra phase. Divine light, beginning to penetrate our consciousness, points to the full moon. The mid-Ramadan full moon embodies the Ma phase. The fullness of spiritual receptivity points to the waning crescent, and the waning moon represents our approach to the Dan phase, where our own light seems to diminish as we merge with the greater light.
And unlike the solar calendar, the lunar cycle shifts Ramadan through all seasons over time.
Yes, when finally the new moon closes this sacred month, it reveals its deepest lesson. Our heart, like the renewed nocturnal star, emerges purified, ready to reflect in its fullness the primordial light that Sufis call Nur Muhammad. It is no coincidence that the Prophet compared believers to the moon in its perfection. The lunar cycle of Ramadan is nothing less than divine writing in the great book of the sky, a celestial calligraphy reminding the initiate that his soul, like the moon, is destined to traverse darkness to better reveal the light. The message? The Ramadan journey transcends external conditions. The truth remains unchanged, whether there is abundance or scarcity, heat or cold. Like water, adapts to all circumstances while preserving its essence.
Between the first glimmers of dawn and the last rays of dusk, a sacred path emerges, a secret passage between 2 worlds. Why this journey, from awakening to shadow? Is it the beating heart of the fast? Why must we fast specifically from dawn until sunset?
Dawn, fajr, comes from a root meaning to burst forth. It represents the emergence of Ra, divine light, into consciousness. Throughout the daylight hours, we experience the purifying fire of Ra, the transformative challenge that consumes our impurities through hunger and thirst.
And as the day progresses,
we enter the Ma phase, learning receptivity and surrender through our growing emptiness. We become like vessels waiting to be filled. The Prophet said, when Ramadan arrives, the gates of mercy are opened. This mercy is the divine water flowing into the empty vessel we have become.
And what about sunset?
Maghrib marks our transition to the Dan phase. The word comes from a root meaning to become a stranger or to draw near. As we break our fast, we draw nearer to Allah through grateful consumption. This completes the daily cycle of Ramadan.
Like a cycle of death and rebirth.
Precisely. The Sufis call this fana and baka, the annihilation of self, followed by subsistence in the divine presence. Each day of Ramadan, we practice this spiritual death and rebirth, traversing the complete cycle encoded in the word Ramadan itself.
And this practice extends to more than food and drink. We also abstain from sexual relations during daylight hours. Why?
Sexual energy represents the most powerful creative force within us. In its raw state, it corresponds to the Ra fire principle, powerful, generative, and consuming. By redirecting this energy, we transform it first through the purifying principle of Ma, and finally into the spiritual intimacy of Da.
A kind of transmutation.
Changed in form, but not in essence. Through abstinence, we learn to transmute energy from its densest form, physical procreation, to its most subtle form, spiritual creation. As Rumi wrote, the sexual act can be a prayer when done with awareness.
Some think fasting weakens. But what if it revealed within you a hidden strength that even science is beginning to discover? I've noticed changes in my body during Ramadan. Beyond hunger, I sleep differently. My dreams become more vivid. I feel more sensitive.
The Ramadan journey manifests physically through our endocrine system, the network of glands that regulates our hormones and, by extension, our consciousness. During the Ra phase of fasting, the pineal gland, associated with the third eye, increases its sensitivity. This gland responds directly to light, embodying the Ra principle of illumination.
And the hypothalamus, Mrs. Firdara?
It enters a state of heightened sensitivity as the fast continues. This corresponds to the Ma phase, becomes more receptive, more adaptive. In our tradition, it is considered the physical seat of Sabr patience.
It's as if the body has its own wisdom.
During prolonged fasting, the body enters a state called autophagy, literally self-consumption, where cells recycle damaged components. This physical purification mirrors the spiritual purification of Ma, the water principle that cleanses and renews. Or through autophagy's divine lens, the soul's alchemy unfolds, discarding the inessential to reveal eternal light. As cells surrender their broken parts, so too must the seeker relinquish the nafs, transforming spiritual decay into luminous awareness. In this sacred consumption, we glimpse the Sufi's greatest paradox. Only in blessed dissolution do we find our truest becoming.
And when we break our fast,
growth hormone rises like a divine tide, mending cellular vessels as the spirit ascends in the Dan phase. Here, our physical metamorphosis mirrors the soul's pilgrimage. Each renewed cell a testament to sacred transformation. The body, not separate from spirit, but its densest poetry, becomes the alchemical vessel where matter and divine light perform their ancient luminous dance.
So these physiological changes actually support spiritual awareness?
The body becomes not an obstacle to spiritual experience, but a vehicle for the complete Ramadan journey. Physical hunger awakens spiritual hunger. The emptiness of your stomach creates space for the fullness of your soul.
When night falls, another door opens, that of the Taraweeh prayers. Many consider them long, grueling, repetitive. But what if their secret were not in their duration, but in what they awaken within us? What if each prostration, each recitation were a step toward a hidden dimension? Why are these night prayers so important? What mystery do they truly contain?
This is not a simple prayer, Mansur. The word Taraweeh comes from the root meaning rest or relaxation, yet these prayers involve standing for long periods, a contradiction, isn't it? It is an ascension, an alchemy of movement and the word. What many consider a physical ordeal actually conceals an initiatory door to more subtle worlds. Each inclination, ruku, and prostration, sujud, activates energy centers, what are called the lata'if. A Sufi disciple reported that one evening during the 13th rak'ah, He felt a strange sensation in his chest, as if a door opened within him. Only years later did he understand that he had entered a state of fana, dissolution, in divine oneness. The movements of Taraweeh realign the inner being, purify the nafs, lower soul, and synchronize us with the rhythm of the divine word. True rest comes not from physical ease, but from spiritual alignment. Taraweeh represents the Dan phase of our daily cycle, where we draw closer to the divine through devotional practice.
Why does this intimate conversation with the divine take place under the starry firmament?
In darkness, our outer vision diminishes while our inner vision intensifies. Here, the Ra principle becomes internalized as inner illumination rather than outer light. The traditional 20 rakats represent complete manifestation. 2, the number of duality, multiplied by 10, the number of completion. Through these prayers, we integrate the spiritual journey of the day, the Ra of illumination and the Ma of purification, into the Dan of divine intimacy.
Mrs. Firdara, I have sometimes felt something, a current of energy flowing through the congregation during the Taraweeh prayers.
The communal aspect creates what our tradition calls a field of baraka, a concentration of spiritual blessing that ripples across dimensions beyond ordinary perception. The congregation transcends its individual forms, becoming a luminous vessel where souls pulse in perfect resonance with the cosmic heartbeat. Here, each worshiper becomes both drop and ocean, distinct yet dissolved in the collective current of divine remembrance. As you know, Mansur, this sacred synchronicity manifests the esoteric meaning of wadat al-wujud, unity of being, where the many become one, embodying the alchemical progression through Ramadan as a living mandala of transformation.
I never realized it was that profound, Mrs. Firdara.
The sage Abu Hamid al-Ghazali once observed a congregation in prayer during the final nights of Ramadan. As he witnessed their unified movements, he suddenly perceived not individual bodies, but a single luminous entity, its collective energy spiraling upward like a pillar of light connecting earth to heaven. Later he wrote, I understood then why the prophet said prayer in congregation exceeds solitary prayer 27-fold. It is not merely multiplication, but transmutation. Separate candles becoming a bonfire bright enough to illuminate the innermost chambers of the unseen world.
We have explored the night prayers, these moments of intimate communion with the divine. But at the heart of these blessed nights, one night stands out, haloed with mystery and promise, the night of destiny. And it is said to be better than 1,000 months. What does this truly mean? Why does this night hold such importance, such power? Why is this night different from others?
This night, traditionally the 27th of Ramadan, represents the perfect culmination of the Ramadan journey, where the 3 principles converge in their highest expression. On this night, the Ra principle manifests not as ordinary light, but as divine illumination descending into the world. The Ma principle appears as perfect receptivity to this descent, and the Dan principle culminates as the closest possible proximity between creator and creation.
But why specifically the 27th night?
2 + 7 = 9, the number of completion, and 27 approaches the lunar cycle around Earth, 27.3 days, linking this night to celestial mechanics. Some say the moon at this phase creates particular gravitational effects on Earth's waters, and by extension on the water in our bodies, which constitutes about 70% of our physical form.
So our very cells respond to this night?
The Quran says, angels descend on this night, bearing the divine decree. In esoteric understanding, these angels may also represent heightened faculties of perception becoming available to the purified heart, the ultimate fruition of the complete Ramadan cycle. Yes, the practice of itikaf, spiritual retreat. It creates a cocoon for metamorphosis as we approach this summit of potential. Have you ever seen a butterfly emerge from its chrysalis?
Indeed, in the tender years of my childhood.
The butterfly must struggle to free itself. This struggle is necessary. It pushes fluid into its wings, giving it the strength to fly. Our spiritual struggle during Ramadan serves the same purpose. Constraint gives us freedom.
All this wisdom is contained within Ramadan. For 1 month, we fast, we pray, we elevate ourselves. But then what? Is Ramadan merely a spiritual interlude, a temporary effort before plunging back into forgetfulness? Or is it meant to leave an indelible imprint on us, an irreversible change? When the crescent moon fades, what remains within us?
The true purpose of Ramadan's intensive training is to cultivate a perpetual state of Ramadan awareness that continues beyond the sacred month. Beyond literal fasting, the principle of Psalm can be applied to every dimension of life. Following the Ramadan framework, fast to the eyes, the Ra principle, abstain from images that lower consciousness and seek those that illuminate the soul. Allow divine light to enter through the windows of perception. Fast to the ears, also Ra. Protect oneself from harmful words and listen attentively to wisdom, open to illumination that comes through sound and silence. Fast to the tongue, the Ma principle. Practice sacred silence and speak only truth. Embody the receptive and fluid quality of Ma in our communication. Fast to the mind, also Ma. Release rigid thought patterns and cultivate divine remembrance. Become a clear vessel for higher consciousness. Fast to the heart, the Dan principle. Abstain from resentment, envy, and fear, creating space for divine love. Cultivate intimacy with the divine that is the culmination of our journey.
So even when we return to food, we can still fast in these other ways?
Now you understand the ultimate goal is what the masters call Samo al-Kawas, the fast of the spiritual elite, which means fasting from everything that distracts, from the divine presence.
The fruit taste is different from before Ramadan.
The fruit hasn't changed, Mansur. You have changed. Your perception has been refined by the complete Ramadan journey. This is the gift of fasting, to taste life more fully by sometimes abstaining from it.
I feel as though I've received a new perspective, Mrs. Firdara. The word Ramadan itself now appears to me as a doorway rather than a mere name.
Remember, Ramadan comes from the Arabic root ramada, meaning intense heat or burning. The month is named for how it burns away our veils, the Ra principle in action.
And the burning creates space for the Ma principle, that perfect receptivity.
Which in turn prepares us for, Dan, divine proximity. Will you dare to transcend mere rituals to embrace this profound transformation? Are you ready to be consumed in the divine fire? To flow like purifying water and to dissolve in the Creator's intimacy?
It seems Ramadan is less about deprivation than transformation.
Transformation through the three-dimensional path encoded in its very name. Hafiz writes, "The small man builds cages for everyone he knows, while the sage, who must duck his head when the moon is low, spends all night dropping keys for the beautiful rowdy prisoners."
And Ramadan is that key?
The key is already within you, Mansur. These 3 syllables simply teach you how to turn it.
Thank you, Mrs. Firdara. I came seeking knowledge, but you have given me something greater.
And what is that, Mansur?
A deeper thirst than any I have felt before. Not for water, but for the divine source itself. I understand now why the Quran says, "Fasting is for me, and I will reward it."
Then the Ramadan journey has already begun within you. For when thirst becomes not deprivation but anticipation, not absence but presence, then the veil begins to lift.
And there we are, dear seekers of light. We come to the end of this journey, a voyage through the fire of Ra, the water of Ma, and the intimacy of Dan. Ramadan is not merely a month. It is an alchemy, a transmutation of the soul, a reminder that the quest never ends. But now the floor is yours. What did you feel through this exploration? What are your own reflections on this mystical journey? Questions? Ideas to share? Tell us in the comments. We read everything. And if this message touched you, illuminate other minds in turn. Click share, like, and above all, subscribe so you don't miss future revelations. For the journey continues, and every step toward the light begins with a simple intention.